fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Hello, Salt Strong Nation. Joe Simons, like diamonds. We are back. Pastor Johnny Kelly. What's up, brother? Looking good in the Fishing College t-shirt.
Yeah, man, I'm rocking the fishing. I got the old school trucker hat going.
Right back at you. Twinsies.
I love it. Yeah, we look good. I'm good, man. I am good. It is beautiful out. I got kids running all over the house. Well, actually, I have a water slide going outside, one of those inflatable things, and I told them they had to stay out there unless one of them was injured while we were recorded. And so I've got life's good though, man. It really is God's blessing and doing some cool stuff in His kingdom right now. And so,
well, and you've basically quadrupled the size of your church since this coronavirus. Now that we're online, and that's really the topic for today of this Unchurched episode is how churches broke the internet. And you had shared something with me. You were on a conference call with, I believe, Life Church and some Facebook executives, and they're talking about just the numbers are just staggering of how many people now because of this, right? Because we did some past episodes we talked about like there's going to be some good that comes at us. God's hand is going to be in here. We know it is, and this might just be one of the many things, the really good things that occur because of this coronavirus. So talk about that and talk about what you're seeing.
Yeah, you know, I got the chance to be in a couple of different conference calls with Facebook over the last 3 weeks or so. And Facebook, just to give you an idea how big of a deal this is, first off, I was in a conference call before or right at the beginning of all this happening, and then right after the first week. And so this was about 5 weeks ago, 4 or 5 weeks ago. And the executive from Facebook said basically like, churches broke Facebook, like they broke it. And it was because so many churches started streaming that had never streamed before. And all of a sudden the doors to their church were no longer, at the edge of their parking lot. The doors of their church were the world, like everywhere. And so over the last few weeks, I know that Facebook has more than quadrupled their server space to handle the amount of streaming that's coming from churches. They have hired a couple of special executives specifically to help churches as we travel through this coronavirus world on Facebook. The amount of content that Facebook, a secular company, is creating for my church to be able to minister and to share the gospel is insane. Like I'm getting emails and messages from Facebook saying, hey, we're listening to you. Here's something that you can use for your church. And that's nothing I would have ever heard from Facebook 3 months ago. And so we're seeing just crazy numbers of people attending church. And the reason why is people that go to church, most of them are watching their church online because most churches are streaming. But what we've also seen is this vast chunk of America that was interested in the idea of church finally found a way to basically watch church without having to go. Introverts or people that are skeptics or people that go, you know what, I'm interested in it, but I don't want to just jump right in. All of a sudden, it's easier than ever. And we're seeing churches grow and more and more people watching these services and being a part of what's happening is really unbelievable. But and I have some hard numbers I can give, but also just a lot of anecdotal evidence of like what I've seen happen to our church, what talking to other pastors and what they're seeing as well. It's off the charts. The amount of people that are doing it. I'm seeing what we're seeing. I think is, and not I think, I know. I mean, we're seeing God take something that was meant to hurt us and saying, I'm going to use this for my good. I'm gonna take something that was meant to hurt you, and I'm going to blast this message out to the world in a way that it never has before. And so it's been a really cool, that this part of this whole situation has been an unexpected and very cool blessing, I believe, for the church as a whole. And I'm not talking about my church. I mean, my church has experienced the growth, but I'm talking about like the big C church, like the church, God's church that he came to build.
So 2 questions.
Yeah.
Question number 1, has Mark Zuckerberg attended your church yet?
I don't know, but I would love it if he did, especially if he tithed.
Number 2, the one thing that really got my attention when we had talked offline is you had said something to the effect of that now that churches are online and what we've just been seeing with the numbers of people actually attending these. I mean, these are IP addresses, right? And in some cases, an IP address, you got a family of 5, I got a family of 5. If we're all watching church, it's counting as one view, and there could be 5 people there, behind the screen. But the stat that you had said was that essentially because of the streaming and because of the ability for churches to now start spreading their message online, that more people than at any other time in the history of the world are actually attending church.
That is what not just myself, but what the Facebook execs have said, and not only that, but like online church platforms and different things have said, like, and if you look at the numbers, it holds true. I can tell you, like, from our church perspective, it's weird when you're talking about attendance, and I don't want anybody to think that it's all about the bigger numbers. That's not why this is so cool. What's so cool is that each one of those numbers represents people, and those are people that are getting to hear a life-giving message, maybe for the first time ever. And so I'm all about the numbers, not because I want to have a bigger church, but because I want more people to hear this message of love, this message of grace, this message of hope than ever before. And so when I talk about numbers, please know I'm not trying to be like, hey, we had the biggest church. That's not my goal. The goal is more people to hear about Jesus. But I can tell you, for me, we've been streaming on Facebook for about 3 years now, 3 or 4 years. And most churches are streaming on Facebook now because it's the easiest platform to stream to. Most churches already had a Facebook page. They can just stream right from it. And
so when you do it, you're obviously at your church with real people, and you had someone there filming it live. Is that what you're doing in the past?
We just have a steady cam that's up in the back, and it is live streaming onto Facebook. That's what normally happens. We've been doing it for years.
Okay.
And our biggest service, our biggest viewership, and the way we count is, like you said, it's hard to count numbers because we don't know how many people are behind that computer screen. And so we count unique visits that are watching the stream or watching the service. That's how we count it. Some might represent one person, some might represent 5 or 10. You just don't know. So we just count unique visits. And up until all of this went down over the last 5 weeks, we just had our 5th Sunday being just streaming. Up until that happened, our biggest service ever live streaming had been about 200. And that was not 200 necessarily live. That was 200 views. So views from like specific unique addresses or unique IP addresses on the computer. And so some of those had been up for weeks before we got to that number. And so around 200 was our biggest, ever. I can tell you right now, it's Monday, and we're about 24 hours removed from yesterday's service stream. And we're, well over 800 views, unique computer IP views on our service from yesterday today. We're at 800 right now. That's 4 times the biggest one we'd ever had, and that biggest one had been up for weeks before we got to that number. And we are 24 hours in, and we're 4 times as much. It is unbelievable what we're seeing. And so the numbers speak for themselves. Like, when you stream live, you can stream live on Facebook, you can stream live on YouTube. There's a lot of places you can stream, and a lot of churches are doing that. But then there is a church platform that's called Online Church, and it was built by a pastor out in Oklahoma. His name's Craig Rochelle. He's the pastor of Life Church. It's the biggest church in America. Something like 70 or 80,000 people attend his campuses every single Sunday. And they built this platform to be able to stream your services on your website. They built it for their church, and they're a church that likes to help other churches. And so they give it away, and they allow other churches to utilize this platform. 5 weeks ago, they had about 3,000 churches that were utilizing that platform. As of this past Sunday, it's almost 32,000 churches.
What's it, 3,000 to 32,000
in 5 weeks?
Wow.
They're working directly with Google, and they have upped their server capacity. They've doubled it, I think, 3 or 4 times over the last 5 weeks, so they can keep up with where it's at. And to give you, here's some hard numbers for you. This past Sunday, now once again, this is not counting the Facebook numbers, because there are a lot of churches that are just streaming to Facebook or just streaming to YouTube. The numbers I can give you, the hard numbers, are going to be based through Online Church, and so it's for those 32,000 churches or whatever. This past Sunday, 31,858 services streamed through Online Church. There was 9,734,234 individual IP addresses that logged in and attended those services. 9.7 million people attended just in that platform. In the Online Church platform, whenever at the end of service, whenever I give, or any pastor gives, an opportunity for somebody to accept Jesus in their heart, you can put up a little thing where somebody can click that, hey, I want to do that. I want somebody to pray with me. And then somebody from my team will be able to pray with them privately online, almost like a chat prayer, and be able to pray with them. And now, not everybody is going to click that makes a decision to follow Jesus, but I can tell you that this last Sunday, 69,422 people actually clicked that button. 70,000 people came to know Jesus last Sunday on just that one online platform. And here's, I think, probably the coolest thing, and what makes this the biggest deal to me, is that as of last Sunday, Online Church didn't just have 32,000 services, but somebody from every single country on this planet watched at least one of those services. Every single country on this planet was able and did. Somebody from every country on this planet logged in and watched a service on Online Church this past Sunday. That is the reach of Jesus. Jesus is taking this thing. Here's the crazy part. This thing that was meant to hurt us, this thing that has made us, forced us into our house. And Jesus goes, hey, guess what? While you guys are stuck here, that's going to be the time that I have the biggest reach. And all of a sudden, every country on this planet got to be ministered to last Sunday, just on that one platform, let alone Facebook and YouTube and everywhere else that people are streaming, Vimeo and different places. Just last Sunday that happened. How incredible is that? Like, every country.
Man. All right. So I want to go a little bit back to the numbers, because I have no idea. So let's just say it's 10 million just last Sunday on this Life Church platform. That does not include Facebook. That does not include YouTube. Just that platform alone on a normal given Sunday. Do you have any idea how many just people in general are in attendance in churches?
Well, on Online Church platform, the numbers that I have seen have been well under 1 million.
No, I mean on the physical, like pre.
Out of those 30, well, if you look at it like this, if we take the number, I'm gonna divide it by 31,858.
I was told there's going to be
the average when you average the size of churches in America, you average them. The average church in America is between 75 and 125 people. Okay. That's the average. And that's accounting for the huge churches of 80,000 and the tiny churches of 10, the average across America. But if you take the number of services that were held this past Sunday and divide that, or take the number of people that attended and divide it by the number of services that were held, you're looking at a number of about 313 per service on average. That's double, almost triple what the average church attendance is all this past Sunday. And that's just accounting, once again, like we said, per computer. The average family, every person isn't on their own device on a Sunday morning when they're streaming, especially right now. People are streaming. I know, like for us in my church and what we're doing in my family, they stream it on our TV, and everybody's in the living room watching it on the TV. A lot of people are doing that. And all of a sudden you're seeing it right there, and that's 5 people. And so when you look at those numbers of 313, that number is actually a lot higher, but 313 per service. Even if you just double it, even if you just go, hey, on average, there's 2 people for every one of those computer feeds, you're at 630 people per church service at a church when most churches run 75 to 125 people. Just statistically, we're looking at numbers that are out of this world. And the average church was not streaming before 5 weeks ago. Most of them weren't. A lot of them, a lot of the younger churches, my church has been streaming for years, and a lot of them do, and a lot of them have. But most weren't. The average church wasn't. And it's been so cool because I can tell you from my perspective, we have helped multiple churches get online and start streaming over the last few weeks because they didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to do it. I know that I've opened up our doors to allow other pastors that maybe don't have the equipment to come and pre-record their services on our equipment so they could have good services. And that's happening across the country. And we're seeing churches go, hey, this is an opportunity that we've never seen before. We'll never see it again. And so the numbers are what they are. I mean, 313 per service on average is just out of this world numbers.
Yeah, and that's just one massive platform, obviously.
That's just one massive platform. Yeah. It is church, online church, and so, but like for our numbers, our church's average attendance is about 150. And we're going to see this past yesterday's service is going to jump over 1,000 people or 1,000 individual computers that have watched it. Probably tonight we'll jump over 1,000. From 150 to 1,000, and how many do those 1,000 represent? Even if it's just double, that's 2,000 people. Our reach is much bigger, and we're seeing this, and we're seeing some churches that are just doing the bare minimum; they're just streaming, and we're seeing churches that are going all out. Our church, we've gone all out to really offer a lot of content during the week. But whatever it is, the cool thing is this for me is that this situation is the great equalizer for churches. That there is, I'm a pastor of 150 people in Lakeland, Florida, and the stuff that we're putting out as a church is right there with churches of 10,000 and 20,000 people. It's more than ever, it's about the message. It's because we all are using the same method. It's just the message. What does the message say? And what we're seeing is that message is growing, and it's week to week. I can take you, if we went through my numbers, I can show you that we've exponentially grown every single week in how many people are watching. You think that Easter's the biggest Sunday, and I was like blown away by the numbers that we had stream our service on Easter Sunday. And yesterday after our service, we're looking at the numbers, and I'm going, wow, like we already passed last Sunday's whole week worth of Easter service, and we passed it by like 2 p.m. yesterday. And that's not on us. That's not us being so good. That is just people are finally getting to hear just the message. All the fluff is out of the way. There is no pomp and circumstance. It's not about how good your lights are or how great your location is.
Or how great your wine is at communion.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about that. We did communion. I told everybody in the church, we did it on Easter Sunday, and I told everybody, I don't care if you have juice or wine, just have a carbohydrate and a liquid, and you're good. I had a guy that was like, I did communion. I had a bottle of water and a piece of dark chocolate. I'm like, awesome. It doesn't matter, man. All that stuff is floated away, and now we get to just hear the message. And what we're seeing is that this message of hope, this message of love, is resonating with people, and they're wanting to learn more about it.
So I think for someone listening who might say, well, gosh, I bet one reason that there's so many more now eyeballs watching church more than any other time in history is you have some people who are watching multiple services. And I know that that's happening. Just like you said, there's also a thing happening where you have 4 or 5 people at one computer. What are you seeing personally and hearing from some of your pastor friends about these new people who are coming in? Are these, because there's clearly millions of new people, meaning people who are unchurched, right? The same reason that Luke and I decided to start this podcast, Salt Strong. And those are usually people who maybe grew up going to church and have been intimidated, right? That, hey, I was burned by a church, so I don't want to go, or I feel like I'm going to get judged, or I'm going to look like an idiot because I don't know what to do. And they have all these different rituals. And now like you said, all that's gone. I mean, there's no barrier to entry. There's no scary, hey, am I dressed right? All of that stuff that could make someone nervous or uncomfortable or intimidated, it's eliminated, right? You can't, if you're the pastor, you can't judge me from my screen. You can't even see me. So what are you guys hearing from kind of this new unchurched who's now going to church? What kind of feedback?
It's a little bit of everything is what we're seeing. I can tell you from our perspective that we're getting views from all over the country. We're getting people from outside of the country that are friends of friends, people in our church that are sharing the feed going, hey, come to church with me today. And I'm hearing from them going, man, my friend has watched the last 3 Sundays in a row with me. They don't go to church. They were burned by church, all the different things you said. Some of them just have never attended. So I know that we've had multiple Salt Strong members coming and watching our feed every week, and enjoying it. And these are, and some of them are people that just don't go to church. They're not against church necessarily, but they just don't attend. And all of a sudden they're attending, they're coming to service, and they're checking us out, and they're being a part of what we're doing. And so I'm seeing it, all that. Yeah, there are some people that are streaming multiple church services, and that's great. But I think more than that, what we're seeing is people that are seekers, that are interested, go, hey, you know what? I can finally check this out, and there's no pressure. Nobody knows I'm here. Nobody knows it is the ultimate. I get to watch and be out of the way and just listen and hear a message. There's nobody judging. There's nobody there. I can just do it. And that's what I'm seeing more than anything, is that people are going, hey, I can check this out for the first time. And so I don't think church is going to go back to the way it was. Not completely. It can't. It's going to be different. And I can tell you, for us, we've got people around the country that are watching every week, and what we're hearing from the ones that are contacting us, we're not making people contact us, but we do get people contact us. There are people that are really enjoying it, that are really being fed and learning more, and some of them making these decisions to follow after Jesus. They're going to stick around, but they'll be, obviously, especially if they're out of state or something, they're going to be sticking around online. But I believe that we're going to see the churches grow on Sunday mornings numerically as far as attendance goes once this ends. And we're going to see something really cool happen there. And so some of this is looking at the numbers and blindly going, well, we think, because there is no way to know the accuracy of everything yet until we get past it. And there's no real way of keeping real true analytics on who's attending and stuff like that right now, because we're we've never had to do this before. This is an experiment for the pastors too, just like it's an experiment everywhere else across the country. This is something that's new for us, but I'm seeing that that by and large, the people that are attending are people that are interested in hearing a message. They're interested in hearing, I would say that the average one of those attenders is not a multiple church attender. Some of them are, but most of them aren't. Most of them are, I believe most of the new people are people that are open to the idea of church. I mean, it's sort of the idea of this podcast is, if you're open to the idea of it, then just hear what we're doing. And in the same way that, you started this podcast to give people a way to have a peek into what it means to have a relationship with God. You have the church is opening up in the same way and letting people get an idea of something without having to feel conspicuous or put on the spot. Nobody's going to ask you to stand up and say your name in front of everybody. Nobody's going to be coming to your house and knocking on your door. You get to just come in and let the message be what carries us forward. And that's why I think it's the coolest thing in the world to see it grow, because it's fully based on the message. People aren't coming back to this because it's the best entertainment. I mean, we've got Tiger King for that. Everybody's got plenty of entertainment right now. That's not what's making these numbers grow. What's making these numbers grow is fully just the message. The message is simple. Jesus loves you, died on the cross for your sins, and he wants to bring you hope, and he wants to bring you a future. And that's what this message is growing the church in a time when it by any other account, nowhere else in America are things growing like this, except here, unless you make toilet paper or hand sand. Those guys are, but
yeah. And I mean, it's kind of the perfect storm too, right? I mean, when I've shared my story with you, the very first episode that we did of going through cancer, and that was a time where I was not going to church. I grew up in a church, and I'd kind of not necessarily turned my back on God, but I just didn't feel like I really needed him as much anymore. And I stopped going to church. And all of a sudden at 28 years old, I found out I have cancer, and I was single and alone and scared and didn't have much hope for the future. I was fearful. I was full of fear. And then that was a time that I turned to God, and I started praying and going to church like feverishly, just like a lot of people right now. There's so much fear and uncertainty and people losing jobs, and there's the financial insecurity. And I mean, it's sad to say, but a lot of people do turn to God and open up a Bible for the first time and pray for the first time in years when kind of bad things happen. And now we have the ability of the internet to be able to ask questions and to kind of peek in to a church, right? To like literally look into a church's door and watch everything without having anyone to judge you. And you could sit there and cry right in front of your computer or your phone or your tablet. It's really wild. And I'm curious to see what happens after. I don't think there's ever going to be a normal. It's clearly going to be some new normal. But I'm really curious to see how many of these people, are saved, and how many of these people's lives are transformed, and how many people keep tuning in. And then even walking into a church that maybe they now feel comfortable with, like, oh man, I feel like I know Johnny there in Lakeland.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be, I'm interested to see it too. But I'm not holding my breath that it's going to, that they're even going to come back. I think what this has done is, if this had happened 10 years ago, 90% of these churches would just be shut down. Very few churches had the capabilities or the financial ability 10 years ago to stream services. It wasn't easy to stream 10 years ago. There were churches that were doing it, but it was few and far between, and it was hard to do.
Yeah, take like 16 tech developers and a full-time videographer, and
now we have churches that are using this.
Yeah.
And plenty of them that they're setting they bought a little cradle for their iPhone, and they're setting it in the front row, and they're preaching to their phone. That's awesome. And here's the deal. Like, I encourage you guys, if your local church is streaming, whether it is super produced or not, I don't care. Just support it and be a part of it. There are pastors that are streaming for the first time that have no idea what they're doing, and they're learning. But the cool thing is that is just as beautiful and of a gift and as a worship to God as the churches that are spending thousands of dollars on equipment. that is the oil on his feet. Whenever a pastor says, I'm going to give my very best, and maybe their very best right now is a cell phone. Maybe it's a big production. It doesn't really matter. But what we're seeing is that the church as a whole has been forced into some of them have been happy to do it, and some of them have been forced kicking and screaming, but we've been forced into the digital age. And so I don't think church will ever look the same. I think that it is a different world for the church now, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The church has gone through giant communication changes over the last 2,000 years, we're in the midst of the biggest one ever right now. We're in the middle of the biggest revolution of communication for the church ever. We're right in the midst of it, and it's forced churches to go, hey, wait a minute. There are people in my community that I get to share Jesus with that I may never see in person, but that doesn't mean their lives aren't going to be changed. It reminds me of there's a movie that it's called the Jesus movie, and it's a slightly cheesy story of the Bible movie, but it's been translated into like dozens and dozens and dozens of languages. And they take this movie, missionaries take it around the world, and they set up a screen and they'll show it in these little villages and towns and huts and craziness all over the world. And the number of people that have come to know Jesus through that movie is just astounding. When you talk to missionaries that have seen so many people come to know Jesus, you don't have to be in the room with them. Remember that we're longing to be back and be with each other and be able to have that communication, stuff like that. But the fact is that we need to embrace where we're at right now. And if you're attending an online church, you need to embrace it by inviting people to join you. Say, hey, come watch my service with me this Sunday. Just go online. We'll talk about it afterwards. Check it out. Invite them to do it. Churches need to embrace where we're at and just sort of say, you know what, this is such a cool moment. That there are people that are hearing me share the gospel every single Sunday that would never darken the doors of my church. They would never come in, but they're watching and they're hearing that same message as if they had come to church. And we need to just remember that God, his message moves forward in its own way, and we're just along for the ride. And his message is moving forward in the middle of this situation, and I'm along for the ride, man. I'm letting him do it. But we're seeing God grow the church, and more people like last Sunday, just the online church platform, 70,000. The church, just through online church platform, the church heaven grew by 70,000 people last Sunday. Yesterday. It's insane. Yeah. And I just can't wait to see what happens next. Who knows? But it's all about the message, man. It's not about the method anymore. All that stuff's been pushed away.
Love it, brother. All right. So now that you don't want people to come to your church,
well, I do.
Meaning you don't. You no one will be there. Where can someone watch you to watch your service? Yeah, we stream live on discoverfamilychurch.com every single Sunday at 10 a.m. We do. It's also streamed on Facebook, on our Facebook page. We look up Discover Family Church right there. You can follow and like us right there. It streams right there. It streams on our YouTube page. We do it in multiple places, allow people wherever they're comfortable to jump in. And we're doing a lot of fun stuff. We have, everybody knows, me and you, we've known about Zoom for years, but the rest of America just learned about Zoom in the last month. And so we do a virtual lobby for our church every Sunday morning at 9:15. And people jump in and out and get to say hi to their friends. And I got a Zoom birthday party coming up this Thursday.
That's awesome. I love it. So much fun. And so we're doing those. We have small groups that are meeting over Zoom 4 nights a week right now. We have tonight's a mom's group, and then we have men's, and then a women's, and then a couples group. So we have 4 different groups meeting. On our Facebook page and YouTube page, we're putting out devotions every morning for adults. And then every evening, we're putting them out for families and kids, for parents to do with their kids. It's really pretty awesome. And so trying to do as much content, we're putting out, like I said to you earlier today, we're putting out about, 14 to 16 videos every single week right now to just get content in the hands of people to hear the message, and right where they're at. And so, but we'd love to have people, come stream our service Sunday morning, 10 a.m. It's about 45 minutes or so. And it's real low key. There's, we have, it's just a time to hear a good message about God. And so we'd love to have you do it. discoverfamilychurch.com.
That's awesome, brother. Everyone go check them out. Give them a like on Facebook.
Yeah.
And, any kind of questions you have on this, because this is uncharted territory, if you will, let us know. We'll have an entire show note at saltstrong.com/unchurched. And you can see all the past episodes that we've done. Old Pastor Johnny Kelly on the majority of them. And Pastor, thank you again, man. This is really a fun time and a unique time. And it's interesting, just 4 or 5 weeks ago when all this went down, we were kind of guessing like what good is going to come from this. We knew something would. We know God's always, he's got a plan. He's in control. Something's good. And I feel like this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. For me, I'm trying to plan ahead. Like, what do we do to make it better, and make it work well so that people can be a part of it, and trying to plan for the future that we don't know what it's going to look like.
Yep.
For me, I'm having a blast in regards to what we're doing here. Obviously, I'm not trying to negate what's going on in the world. There's some bad stuff going on. Hey, there's a cutie. It's okay. I've seen my kids walk past the window like 4 times right here. And it's coronavirus world. And so, but it's just trying to figure out what's next and just sort of letting God do it and just sort of being along for the journey, man. Let him do what he does. He's going to make something good come out of this.
Amen, brother. All right. This is a clear sign. It's family time for me. And I really appreciate your time, dude. This is a good one. And keep me posted too on the stats.
Yeah.
I know it's not about the numbers, but then again, the numbers translate into people saved and just hopefully just a better future with more love and more hope. So I'm
every country on the world, 70,000 people yesterday. That's so never happened before. That's insane. That's so cool.
That is awesome. All right, my friend, Pastor Johnny, you the man.
Have a good one.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul. It was passed down to me from the days of old. To find us on the water if there was a way. It's been said my papa, he wrote the book on catching big reds and 20-pound snook. I wish I knew all the things he knew today. For he's the reason why we are this way. And he put fishing in our soul.